We have an old hollow core door that needs a makeover. I wanted something simple and modern. First, I removed the door by placing a scrap wood underneath for support and unscrewing the hinges one by one. Make sure to have someone to hold the door when removing the last hinge to prevent it from tipping over. Once off, I marked the top and front for easy identification. Next, I removed the hinges completely and cleaned both sides with the degreaser. Then I lightly sanded the surface along the grain and wiped off the dust. Now for the fun part. I used these wooden slats meant for wrapping around poles. This piece is 12 inches wide and 8 feet long. I measured, cut the wrap to match the door's height, and glued it to the front with construction adhesive, keeping a 4-inch gap from the hinge side. To secure it, I also pin nailed it in place. Once set, I applied 1 coat of primer, first using a brush for the grooves, then a roller for the surface. For the final color, I chose this beautiful pastel green in satin finish. Same as primer, I used a brush to paint the grooves and then used a foam roller for the rest. I had to apply 3 even coats. I repeated the same steps on the other side of the door and the door frame. Once dry, I installed new hinges and propped the door back up with scrap wood before screwing it into place. Finally, I installed this chrome doorknob. And that's it! A simple upgrade turned an old door into a modern statement piece with just one material and a fresh coat of paint. Thank you for watching.
I had this nice but not terribly modern or exciting door. It was originally white, and I thought painting it black would have a big impact, but it didn't really. I saw this 1/8 inch hardboard at Home Depot and had an idea. I purchased 2 of the 4x8 panels. I cut the board into strips that were uniform in width. I played around laying these out onto the door to find a pattern that I liked. I liked this angled pattern. I felt like the most difficult part of my door design was going to be properly working with the door handle. I didn't want to end up with half a board where the doorknob needed to go. I positioned the board and then used a Sharpie to draw where my door handle would go. I made sure this lined up with the existing doorknob hole in the door. Once I had this marked, I cut it out using a multi-tool. This thing really works great when you need to make a cut in the center of a piece like I needed to do here. Then I secured the doorknob piece in place. That set the angle for the rest of my pieces, and I used construction adhesive to secure those in place. I also went back with a small pin nailer to further secure them, but really the construction adhesive may have been enough. I just wanted to be sure. I allowed the adhesive to dry overnight. The next morning, using a little handheld saw, I cut around the door, getting rid of the overhanging pieces. I cut right along the door edge so that my boards wouldn't interfere with the proper functioning of the door at all. There were some spots that were a little rough from where they were cut with the saw, and so I gave a little light sanding over these areas just to make sure that the hardboard was smooth. My next step was painting. The paint color I used was called Urbane Bronze by Sherwin-Williams. It's kind of like a dark charcoal gray, and I've used it throughout this condo renovation that I'm working on. After my first coat of paint, I stood the door up, painted a second coat, and let it dry. Once the paint was dry, I added a new modern handle to go with the look of my new modern door. The new handle cost me $22 and fit into place perfectly. I rehung the door and admired my work.
I found this door on Facebook Marketplace and it was finally time to put it to use. The first step was to remove my existing bathroom door. This was super easy to do by unscrewing the hinges from the door frame. Using an X-Acto knife, I scored the edges of the top door frame before using a hammer and chisel to totally remove the piece along with the 2 decorative corners. This was way easier to do than I thought. This step was necessary as my door frame was totally unlevel. After measuring my new door, I purchased a 1x8 to act as my header. After painting it white to match the existing trim, we leveled it off and bolted it to 4 studs. We needed to add the header because our studs were not equally spaced since this is an older home. If your studs are equally spaced, you can totally skip this step and bolt the track right to the wall. Securing the track was easy as the barn door kit I ordered from Amazon came with everything I needed. We didn't need to find the studs this time since we are using the header as one giant stud. After the track was hung, we drilled 4 holes into the top of the door, attached the hanging brackets, and secured them with the included bolts. The hardest part of this step was finding a drill bit big enough. We hung the door on the track and figured out where we wanted the stoppers positioned. These just slid onto the side of the rail and screwed in with the Allen key that was included in the set. To finish it off, I added some privacy cling film since this is a bathroom after all. This was super easy to use as it bonds to glass with just water. All I had to do was measure, cut, spray with water, and smooth out the bubbles with a credit card. It's super important to make sure that your window is really clean before applying the cling film. I just peeled it off the back, and as you can see, it instantly stuck to the window. My big tip is to use the credit card that you use to smooth out the bubbles for cutting off the excess around the edge. Just butt up the credit card to the edge of the window and drag your knife down the frame. This creates a super clean cut, and you're done. This DIY instantly gave my bathroom character and added a fun antique element to the space. I'm still on the hunt for cool antique handles for the door, but for now, it's easy to grab and push open and close as it is. I hope this inspired you to rethink your builder-grade bathroom doors. Thanks for watching, and see you in my next video.
If you've ever wondered what the inside of a hollow core door looks like, you're about to find out. This door was in fine shape, but when it opened, it took up all the space in the hallway, and I wanted to convert this closet to a laundry closet with a stackable washer and dryer, and having doors that open like French doors was going to be much more functional. I removed the door from the hinges and removed all of the door lock hardware. I laid it on a table to get started with my project. The next step was to go ahead and cut the door with the table saw. There was no turning back now. And then I got my first glimpse inside a hollow core door. It was hollow, with wood at the top and bottom and some cardboard in some areas. I sanded down the rough edges left from the table saw and then measured and cut my 1x2s to the height of the door. In order to add 1x2s to the end of the door, I needed something for it to attach to. So I took the wood left over from cutting down my 1x2s to the right height, and I attached these to the inside of the door using a pin nailer, since this uses just a very small nail. Once that was done, I used construction adhesive and some more nails to attach the 1x2s along the edge. Now I've got 2 door halves set up and ready. The problem is, clearly, that I also have big holes in the door due to the old lock and handle. So I had to cover those. I happened to have some leftover beadboard from a recent bathroom project, and so I decided to just turn this over and use the smooth side. You could use a panel or sheet cut down like this, or alternatively, you could use a piece of trim that you like. I cut this to 3.5 inches wide to cover the doorknob hole, and cut it thinner on the other side to cover up the seam where the 1x2 was attached to the door. I secured those in place using construction adhesive and the pin nailer. Once those were in place, I could hang the door and get a good look at everything. The next step was to paint. I added a few coats to make it look uniform, and I did caulk between the trim pieces and the door itself. Finally, I added some long handles, and my door was ready for use. It stays together and tight when closed, but if yours doesn't, you can add a door magnet at the top. I had bought some of these on Amazon, but didn't end up needing them at all on my project. Now my closet is ready for me to add the laundry center, and the doors will allow me to open the closet without the door obstructing the entire hallway. This project could also be used on a pantry door or linen closet door really nicely. I hope this inspired you to repurpose your door to fit your needs. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and see you next time.